Hey, it's Steve, that old Yorkshire Geek. You can't see for that, can you? Hang on, what do I do? Never mind. Welcome to the next part of my series, my top 5 favourite films for each year since I was born. Still haven't worked it out, have we? Anyway, we're up to 1984. Not that you can see. There you go. We're up to 1984. Bit of a clue what film is in this one. So it's in my top 5 films from 1984. What a stellar year. It was, up there with 1982 for some great films out that year. So I've got a top 5, and I've got a voluminous honourable mentions list. There's 13 in the honourable mentions for 1984. But my top 5. But anyway, as I usually say, this is my top 5 favourite films, not necessarily the top 5 best films. These are my top 5 favourite films, the ones that I watch more than the others. So there we go, and they're not in any particular order. It's not like a countdown. It's not like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and number 1 is the best. It's not that. It's just a list of 5 films, my top 5 favourite films. Right, before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you've subscribed already. I'm also on Facebook, X and Instagram, links in the description for all that, if you want to follow me on the social medias. What else? I've got a Patreon page, and there's memberships on the YouTube channel, and what else? Don't know. Merch, there's merch. If you follow the link, if you go to the YouTube page, there's a store section. There's also a link in the description for merch where you can get t-shirts and stuff like that of my own designs. So they might not be the best, but the big good quality t-shirts, but just the designs. I'm not doing a good job. I'm a terrible salesman. Anyway, so you can check that stuff out. And I'm not wearing one of my own t-shirts today. I forgot to put one on, but anyway, check out other videos where I am wearing them. Right, so let's get on with it, shall we? We'll just get on with this top 5. I will reiterate, top 5 favourite films, not necessarily the best films, not in any order. Right, so we'll begin. First up, this will probably be my number 1, to be completely honest, but it's going to be the first on the list. It's Ghostbusters. There we go. Who are you going to call? One of those films that is almost perfect. Nay, maybe it is perfect. I don't know. But it is a fantastic film. One of the best films ever made. It is funny. It has some scary moments. It has great effects. It has great acting from all the cast. It's just a fantastic film, directed by Ivan Reitman, starring Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Rick Moranis, and Sigourney Weaver. Have I missed anybody out? No, I haven't. And it's a top-notch film about a group of scientists from a university who get kicked out of the university because of their loony ideas about ghosts and the supernatural, go into business for themselves, and luckily for them, lots of ghosts start appearing because of Zool, who's a Sumerian, or is it Babylonian? No, Sumerian. It is Sumerian. A god is coming back from the netherworld via Sigourney Weaver's fridge. And it's great. It's great fun. Everybody's seen Ghostbusters, haven't they? They have. Everybody's seen Ghostbusters, and everybody knows what a great film it is. So there we go. That's Ghostbusters. Next up, Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. One of the lesser Star Trek films, but it's still a great film in my opinion. Directed by Leonard Nimoy, stars the usual cast of original series actors. William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy is in it, but not much. And the usual ones: George Takei, Walter Koenig, James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols. We get to new Savick. In Star Trek 2, it was Kirstie Alley as Savick, but in this one it's somebody else. I forgot her name. Robin. Oh, I can't remember. I'll put it there. I'm blanking. And this is a video. I could, I could just pause the video, edit it. I won't. I'll just put a name there. Robin something or other. Anyway, And Merritt Boutrick comes back as David, Kirk's son. And it's a bit of a sombre movie compared to some of the other Star Trek films. And it has kind of a TV movie feel for me. I don't know, it seems a bit flat and a bit TV, like a soap opera. An 80s soap opera. No, it's an 80s movie, but it does have that. So maybe we can blame it because it's Leonard Nimoy's first. I don't know if it's his first film he directed, but it's his first Star Trek film. But anyway, but it's still worth a watching. It's still good, and it still, delivers on all fronts. And it's, an underrated one, even though it is an odd-numbered Star Trek film. So there we go. That's Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. Next up, Gremlins from Joe Dante. A great Christmas. What do you call it? A gateway horror film, I suppose you could call it. Billy, played by Zach Galligan, gets a present off his dad of a pet, I think called a mogwai, like a cross between a cat and a little tiny koala bear and other things. It's just a little cute thing with big ears. And he gets that for Christmas, for a Christmas present, and he's warned not to feed it after midnight, not to get it wet, and not to put it in bright light or sunlight. Sunlight will kill him. And obviously, all those things happen, and hilarity and danger ensues as the offspring of Gizmo, is what he calls the creature, become gremlins, lizard-like creatures, go on the rampage in the town of Kingston Falls, USA. Don't tell us exactly where in the USA it is, but it's snowing, so maybe it's in Colorado or somewhere, I don't know. And stuff happens, so there we go. And it's a cool film. It's a great film. It is a great film. And the sequel is good as well. Maybe even better, to be completely honest. But Gremlins has a special place in the hearts of many. So there we go. That's Gremlins. Next up, The Terminator. I've got to do it. Everybody does that. Do they? I do. The Terminator from James Cameron. His breakthrough movie after Piranha 2: The Spawning didn't do well because it was rubbish. But The Terminator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, and others. A cyborg machine is sent back in time from 2029 to kill the mother of the leader of the resistance, because there's been a war where the machines have taken over and wiped out most of humanity. And so the Terminators decide to go back and kill because the humans win, so the machines decide to send back a Terminator, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger, to kill the mother of the leader of the resistance, John Connor. But the humans, the resistance, find out about this and send back a lone protector to save her, and that's it. And action ensues, and it's a great film with great effects, great practical effects. Not always, the best. Not always super realistic looking, but Stan Winston doing his stuff. Sometimes they linger a bit too long on, particularly the fake Arnold Schwarzenegger head. It's good, but you can tell it's not prosthetic, a fake head, a puppet essentially. But it's still a super duper film, and it's got a great climax, and it just zips along at a frantic pace. So there we go. So that's The Terminator, great film. And finally, of my top 5 for 1984 is The Last Starfighter. I'm going to do it again. We've done this in Magnificent Mondays. A great family sci-fi action adventure comedy, whatever you want to call it. It's a great science fiction film with very early use of photorealistic computer generated graphics done on a Cray XMP supercomputer. It's a great film. I forgot to put the name now. I know I should have had notes. Alex Rogan, played by the name that I'm going to put there, beats the record on an arcade machine called the Starfighter machine. Beats the record on it, then gets a visit from somebody called Centauri, and jumps in his car, says, I've got a deal for you. It's super exciting. So he gets in the car because he's got nothing to lose, by the way. So off he finds out the car's a spaceship and takes him to another planet, and he becomes a starfighter to defend the frontier against Zua and the Kodan Armada and all that stuff. Space battles, all that jazz. It's great stuff. It's all exciting. And also comedic stuff on Earth. While Alex is gone fighting in space, they leave a robotic stand-in for him. And hilarity ensues in that. It's a great film. Directed by Michael Myers, not Mike Myers of Austin Powers fame, and Michael Myers from Halloween. Directed by Nick Castle, who played The Shape in the first Halloween film. So there we go. A great film. Give it a look if you haven't seen it. Right. So that's my top 5. So we'll move on to the honourable mentions. Are you ready? We'll just zip through these. First up, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. A lot of people's least of the Indiana Jones trilogy, because I'm not mentioning the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. They don't count. But it's still a good film, a good whiz-bang action adventure. One of the films, I think, that brought about like the 12A certificate or PG-13 in America. I don't know if it was the first one, but it was among, I think, the first ones to cause it, because of the violence that's in it. But it is a great film. Indigo's after the Shankara Stones. It's a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark by a year. And it's a good fun film, so there we go. Next up, this is Spinal Tap from Rob Reiner. Mockumentary, or rockumentary as he calls it. It's about a fictional English rock band called Spinal Tap. All played by Americans. But you wouldn't know, they put on great English accents. And it's just hilarious. And they ended up going on tour. They could play the instruments and sing and do all the stuff, could the actors. And they ended up doing albums and going on tour and actually becoming rock stars as well as actors. And it's a huge amount of fun. It's really funny. And also a bit poignant in places, but it is a great film. Right, next up, Police Academy. I've got to admit, I'd actually forgotten about this film. And then I was going through my list of films that came out in 1984, and I thought, blimey, Police Academy. I used to love that film, and I haven't seen it for years. But I remember at the time, I really, really enjoyed Police Academy. It's the best of the Police Academy films because it's the most... They ended up becoming like a family franchise, didn't it, that your kids could watch. But Police Academy were a proper adult-oriented comedy action film. Maybe a bit tamer than like Beverly Hills Cop, but along those lines. It didn't have as much swearing and stuff in it, but it had a bit of nudity. But it was great about young recruits joining the police academy and all their training and stuff, and all the the guffaws and jokes and stuff that happen. It's a film with Steve Guttenberg. It's probably the film that put Steve Guttenberg on the map. And but what happened to him? But it's a huge amount of fun, and it's got a great ending. It's got a good actiony ending, where the recruits, the what they call them, cadets, I suppose they are, prove their worth against bad guys. Anyway, so that's Police Academy. Next up, Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. That's a hell of a title, isn't it? People just call it Greystoke. Christopher Lambert, or Christophe Lambert, however you want to pronounce it, as Tarzan. And it's a great version of. Some say it's the most, because I've not read the book. Right, Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote Tarzan, didn't he? I think. I've not read it, so I don't know. Some people say this is the most true to the book. I don't know, but it's a great film, and it plays a great performance. It gets obviously is raised by gorillas with some great gorilla, primate makeup effects. For the time, so he's raised, as amongst the gorillas, and then somebody finds him in the jungle and bring him back to civilization. He can't fit in. Stuff happens, and he ends up going back. So anyway, but it's got Andy McDowell in it as well. Was famously dubbed. Her voice was famously dubbed for some reason. But anyway, so that's a cool film. Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. Next up, the Philadelphia Experiment. Based on a true story, but not really. But it's a great sci-fi action adventure about some sailors who are in an experiment on a ship docked in Philadelphia. They do an experiment to make it invisible to radar, but it actually makes it sort of like phase into another dimension. And these two crew members actually end up going back in time, or forward in time to 1984, 83 or whatever. And it's a cool film. It is a cool film. It kind of reminiscent slightly of The Final Countdown from 1980s. It has a similar sort of feel to it as that, but different. It's worth a look. And as I said, based on a true story, some say. Anyway, next up, Dreamscape, top-notch film, really, really good. But again, another film I haven't seen for a while, but is really, really good. About exploring people's dreams, starring Dennis Quaid. It is and Max von Sydow as well. Is it Max von Sydow? I think it is. I've forgotten. Anyway, and Christopher Plummer's in it as well as a bad guy. They find a way to Dennis Quaid can essentially go into people's dreams and work out what's troubling them. But we've got a bad guy that's going into people's dreams, basically killing people from within their dreams, because everybody knows if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. So there's some great visuals and stuff like that in this film. So it's well worth a look. Nightmarish visuals and stuff, monsters and nightmarish dreamscapes, because that's what they call it. So there we go, that's Dreamscape. Next up, a bit of horror, Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one, the best one, some might say. About Freddy Krueger, starring Robert Englund and others. From Wes Craven. A really, really, really good horror film. Just straight up horror film. Speaking of dreams, from Dreamscape, this is another one. It's about nightmares. Basically, is a demon, somebody who was a not a nice person in life, was killed, then comes back in some sort of supernatural way to haunt people's dreams and all that stuff. And I say some great effects in it and sequences, and it's well worth a look if you haven't seen it. But I think it's one of those films I think most people have seen. So that's Nightmare on Elm Street. Next up, Supergirl. A lot of people don't like this, and it's not as good as Superman. It's from the same people that brought us Superman, Superman 2, Superman, those lot. Christopher Reeve's kind of in it. He's on a poster because it's set in the same universe. Obviously, Superman's cousin from Argo City. I forgot her name. I forgot what she calls herself. Anyway. She comes to Earth and becomes like Superman, but she's a girl instead. But she's got to deal with Faye Dunaway, who's like a witch, and so she's got to deal with her. She's the main bad person, is Faye Dunaway, and it's a bit goofy in places, but it's still a lot of fun. So anyways, that's Supergirl. Next up, 2010. Subtitled The Year We Make Contact Sometimes, sequel to 2001, and in a lot of ways it's better than 2001 because it gets on with it and it don't faff about, and it tells you what it's doing. It's not being overly enigmatic like 2001 was. It's telling you what's going on. So it's a sequel, like I say, it's like 9 years after the first film, and they're going to go and get the Discovery back from around Jupiter, find out what happened, and but they've got to hitch a ride with the Russians, the Soviets, because at this time, obviously, the Soviet Union was still a thing, but they didn't know that it was going to fall in, 1984? In only 5 years' time, the Soviet Union would fall, but they didn't know that, did they, at the time? So in 2010, the Soviet Union's still around. So the Americans have got to hitch a ride on a Soviet spacecraft, and go back to the Discovery and find out what happened. So that's what they do. Then all sorts of stuff happens. They find out things are happening on the Jovian moon Europa. They see what's happened with David Bowman, the commander of the Discovery, and all that stuff. And that's it. It's a really good film, written and directed by Peter Hyams. Top-notch cerebral sci-fi. Really, really good. I like it. Next up, Beverly Hills Cop, which I mentioned earlier, from what's his face? Eddie Murphy. There, why did I blank on his name then? Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, who was recently on Netflix in his own film, on the Axel F. It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't great. They didn't do the, his Axel Foley laugh, but never mind. But Beverly Hills Cop is a great comedy, police drama film, whatever you want to call it, where in Detroit, Axel Foley's friend is murdered by these gangsters sort of thing. I think that they're like drug runners, but he's murdered, and the trail leads him to Beverly Hills. So that's where he goes to Beverly Hills, and hilarity ensues as he's trying to fit in and do all this stuff. And it's a great film. It's a great film with some good action sequences and some good shootouts and some great comedy. So there we go. That's Beverly Hills Cop. Next up, David Lynch's Dune. One of my favourite sci-fi films of all time. I really, really like the 84 Dune. I think it's just magnificent, even though sometimes the effects are a bit ropey. But it's just it's an example of a director and the art directors and art designers and all this stuff, costume designers just going crazy and throwing it all at the screen. I'm just thinking, I've got a mad idea. I don't care how mad it is. We're doing it. Like milking a cat to get antidote for a poison, stuff like that. Stuff that I don't think were in the book. I've read the book a long time ago, but I don't think that were in the book. But anyway, it's a great film. It's a great film. I prefer it to these new ones from what's his face, Denis Villeneuve. They're fine. I've not seen the second one, to be completely honest, but first one were okay. But I love the 84 Dune. I think it's sadly underestimated, and a lot of people don't like it. But I do. I love it. Next up, Runaway, starring Magnum P.I. I forgot his name. What am I like with names? I usually have a list of notes, and I haven't done today. Who played Magnum? I'll put his name there. You know what I'm like. Set in the near future. It's like the X-Men. It's set 15 minutes in the future or whatever, where robots. These are like 1980s robots, by the way. Robots are around doing menial tasks and stuff like that. They can do all sorts of things. Can robots, and Magnum P.I. is what I'm just going to call him. Tom Selleck. There we go. Got it. Tom Selleck plays. He's like the head of the police department that deals with runaways when robots go crazy, malfunction. He's got to deal with them. But little does he know, he's got Gene Simmons. Yes, not the actress Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons, the bassist demon from Kiss, the rock band Kiss. He plays the bad guy. And he's got programmable bullets that'll seek out their target and stuff like that. So he's got to deal with him, as well as the malfunctioning robots. And it's better than it sounds. Written by Michael Crichton. It might have been directed by him as well. If it is, I'll say so there. It might have been. But it's a good film. It's better than it should be. That's it. The robots are not exactly great, but it's the 80s that they had to deal with what they had at the time. But it is better than it should be. I think it's due to the chemistry between Tom Selleck and his I'll put her name there, his co-star. But anyway, so there we go. That's Runaway. And finally, John Carpenter's Starman, starring Jeff Bridges. A lovely film. that's what all can say. Yeah, a great film. Kind of reminds me, the beginning bit reminds me of the horror film Extra. It's kind of like that, which I think came out before this, I think. But it's not as horrific. But aliens find one of our probes. I think it's the Voyager probe or the Pioneer. One of our probes, and send a probe back. And this probe arrives at Karen Allen's house. So I'm pointing. I've got a picture of it up there, a signed autograph. Arrive at Karen Allen's house, and who's mourning the death of her husband, and it finds a lock of his hair in a photo album. And using the DNA from that, even though they don't get DNA in hair, maybe they're a follicle, I don't know, but it doesn't show that. The probe becomes her dead husband. And obviously she freaks out, but then it becomes a road journey. He's only just arrived, but he's got to get to Meteor Crater in Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, the Meteor Crater there. He's got to get there where these people will pick him up. So they end on a road trip and stuff happens, but there's government people after him, obviously, like E.T., but he's a good guy. He makes deer come back to life that have been shot by hunters and stuff like that. It is a lovely film. So there we go. That were it. That were my top 5 films and top 13 honourable mentions of 1984. I don't think any other years are going to have quite this many films in the list. But we'll go through them one last time. So first up we had Ghostbusters. That was followed by Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Then we had Gremlins. And then The Terminator. And then The Last Starfighter. So that's my top 5. Then in the honourable mentions, are you ready? We had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, This is Spinal Tap, Police Academy, Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, The Philadelphia Experiment, Dreamscape, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Supergirl, 2010, Beverly Hills Cop, Dune, Runaway, and Starman. Apologies if you can hear me cat in the back. She's there. Can you see her there? Look, she's being naughty as the cat. There, look. She's pulling things down and being naughty. So I'm going to have to go deal with her. Right, we'll leave it there. What we got for 1985? We've still got quite a few honourable mentions, but a decent list, a varied list. 2 Sylvester Stallones, but you can't guess what they are. Anyway, we'll leave it there. So I've got to deal with my cat now. There you go. She's there. Look, you see her. She's there. Look, being naughty. Anyway, thanks for watching. And wherever you are, look after each other. And until next time, I'll see you there.